Hello and welcome back to the Do You Like Films podcast. My name's Shaun and I'm joined once again by Michael. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Bub.
And back from the Almost Dead, it's Curtis.
Hi!
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm okay now. I'm not too bad, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, your lungs back and working again.
Yeah, I've stopped smoking, so I think they're just going to get up and up from here. So
Good news.
I might be able to breathe now.
Yay!
Not too bad.
We're here to talk about the latest in the Fox Marvel universe. We're talking about Logan. Hugh Jackman's final outing as Logan, aka the Wolverine. And we're going to talk heavy spoilers and heavy profanity, just like the movie. There's going to be lots of fucks, lots of shit, probably, I don't know.
Oh, lots of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to start off by asking you guys a question. Now, this is labelled a superhero movie in quotes, but it wasn't a traditional superhero movie. Do you think that was a good thing or a bad thing because of it?
Definitely a good thing. I think that from the other Wolverine films, they suffered from trying to be superhero-like, and especially with X-Men Origins Wolverine, there were so many mutants, so many things. This is so much better because there aren't that many mutants and superheroes, and it's just about this man, really. And
it's like just a contained story. It's got focus, it's got purpose. It's not like we need to establish all these characters all at once and then they go out on a big adventure. It's like, okay, there's like 3 main characters with a few side characters. Obviously, we've got Wolverine, aka Logan, Hugh Jackman playing him again. Then we've got Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart. And I guess we could include Laura, aka X-23, in there as a main character.
Yeah.
And then the side characters of Caliban, and then we've got a few of the Reavers as well.
The bad guys.
Speaking of characters, what did you think of Caliban? I know we talked about this off air. Probably best we talk about it on air.
I don't think Stephen Merchant was a great choice, mainly because of the Bristolian accent.
I agree.
I don't think it worked in a post-apocalyptic kind of world. Well, it wasn't really post-apocalyptic, I guess, was it?
It wasn't. No? It was more sort of post-apocalyptic for mutants, wasn't it? It was more like because the mutants don't exist anymore, so it was to them it's post-apocalyptic, but humans are still going in the same way, I guess.
Yeah. So built up areas, weren't there, with cities and stuff.
Yeah,
and he was a cab driver for a little bit at the beginning, if you remember that.
Yeah, where they were hiding out was almost like this Cerebro type thing where they're keeping Professor X because he's going a bit sort of got dementia or sort of some sort of degenerative brain disease. So he's not as good as he once was. And Caliban's there as almost like a little sort of maid nurse type person, fixing them up with food, stitching Wolverine up and whatnot because his healing factor's not working as well.
I will give this though. I thought Caliban's like outfit outside of like when he just walked outside, I thought it looked sick.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. I just thought he was so miscast. It's like, why? There's so many different people you could have gone for. Why Stephen Merchant? It seems like such a random choice. And I thought the character was actually like quite a good idea, but I was just so distracted that it was him. It took me out of the film whenever he was in it. I think for me that's the only really negative point I have about the film.
I thought he looked pretty good, like this sort of tall, skinny man. You know, he looked sort of worse for wear, and like I said, when he's going on the outside, and he's got the sort of the cowboy hat and the duster on and whatnot. I didn't have so much of an issue because I was like, I see the trailers and I knew it was Stephen Merchant, and then when he first pops up, he does his normal kind of like you said Bristolian accent. I was more pleased with that because I didn't want him to do an awful American accent because I can imagine he doesn't do one great. I don't know, I've not heard one, but we've seen and heard superhero movies, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch, we did a review of Doctor Strange and the accent came up in that very, you know, sort of, he sounded Dr. Gregory House, he sounded very sort of generic American, whereas if he'd have just done his own accent, maybe it would have worked in this, and then maybe if Stephen Merchant would have tried a different accent rather than his normal sort of dialect, it might have worked out.
What did you make of Professor X in this? He's swearing. No, it's a different Professor X to what we've seen. The only thing I thought he was fantastic. The only thing I had an issue with is that when we're introduced to him, he is so far gone and almost unrecognisable as the Professor X we know. But for the rest of the film, he actually seems quite with it and quite coherent. There's a few moments where he has these seizures, which is the threat that he can wipe out people within an area to him.
But do you not think like he's this sort of old senile man and they're trying to sort of dope him up so he doesn't have these crazy attacks? But do you not think he almost sort of comes around and gets better almost when Laura turns up, when he's like,
that's what I was gonna say.
He
there
has a
are other
purpose.
like you said, because he has the school for gifted children, and that's his purpose. And now obviously all the mutants are either died out or been killed or whatever, and there are no new mutants until this one turns up. So it's almost his purpose comes back, and he almost gains his sort of mental faculties back again.
I just really like the way that he's done, like, because he is just an old man, like on the edge, his last kind of days, and like he is swearing because he's just like, well, fuck it, whatever, there's, and I just think that
I thought it really suited him. Like when I heard that he was going to be swearing and stuff, I always thought Professor X shouldn't be like that at all. But when you watch the film, it does make sense to see like how much he's been through, and the world isn't the same, and you can imagine that Professor X would turn into this man.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, sort of on a sadder note about Professor X, did you think his death in the movie was a good thing, a bad thing? Do you think it was handled well? Was it emotional? How did you feel about it?
I didn't think it was the hero's death he should have had. Like just to be put in the back of a truck after he's dead. I was like, this is Professor X. He needs to be like encased in something and put under the ground and just appreciated.
I agree. If the world was a better place, he would have got that. I think in the circumstances, it made sense. I think that I thought it was really great because it's basically what happens is there's this clone of Wolverine called X-24, which is just all the anger of Wolverine, and none of the good. And that is the thing that kills Professor X. And then there's a great moment where Logan is saying to Professor X just as he's having his final breaths, it wasn't me, because Professor X thinks that Wolverine's just betrayed him and killed him. And I thought that was such a great moment that what do you say in someone's final moments when you're panicking and all he wanted to say was it wasn't me that did it.
Yeah.
And I thought with the meal that happens before it, and you actually do get a bit of happiness. If it was all just shit, horrible, it would have been a bit like, oh God, this is morbid. But the fact that we actually get to see him smile again, and I think it was a really nice way for... not a nice way, but it was a good way for him to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with the meal beforehand. It's almost this glimmer of hope in such a dour, dark place, and then for it to happen after that was probably the best point. But for me, I sort of struggled with the way it was almost brushed over. Like you said, there was this really super emotional moment. Like Professor X wakes up and he sees what he thinks is Logan looming over him, and he's like, I remember what happened to the 7 mutants. I know it was my fault. And then I'm like, okay, I'm engrossed. I'm paying attention here. I want to know what's happening. And then, this X-24 sort of digs his claws into him. You're like, oh my God, what on earth is going on? And then obviously Logan comes and tries to rescue him and save him, puts him in the back of the truck, like he said, but it's sort of almost brushed over. I just wanted that little bit more, just to kind
that's
of,
how I felt as
or
well.
that little bit more reverence, because after he died, it's sort of like, it wasn't me. And then like Logan's off fighting X-24 again. It's like, I needed that like couple of extra sort of 30 seconds or a minute just to kind of dwell on it, and just for me to have that tear roll down the side.
I thought that you get that though in the you get that in the funeral of him, basically when he's buried him and he's standing there. I thought that was such a great moment because I noticed the second time I'm watching it, X-24 when they go to Las Vegas sees the outfits and there's a little girl holding her dad's hand in the outfits. So that's what she then does to comfort him. It's like she's learning how to feel, and after having so much pain in her life and just not knowing about emotion stuff, she's learning how to care for someone. So I thought that you got that sort of tear in that moment rather than not in the moment when he's, like you say, spun in the back of a truck. And
also there's that bit where Logan goes nuts and starts hitting the truck with like a spade as well, showing his anger and frustration, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Had a wide kind of range in terms of emotion. And I thought that was really well portrayed by Hugh Jackman. He's great, and he's always been a great cast as Wolverine. Maybe even before everybody was like, I'm not sure about him. He's too tall, or he's Australian or whatever. But I think everybody's come around over the last 17 years to just go, yeah, he's the guy. And I think anybody that's going to play him from now on, if they do go in that direction, it's going to be a very, very difficult task.
I wouldn't even know who would. Like
Kevin Hart, I saw on one of the lists.
Oh, really?
And the justification was he's small. And Wolverine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to say I thought Hugh Jackman has been amazing.
Who's that guy that was in Legend? Film.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's everybody nowadays.
He
Isn't it?
is, that's
If
the
there's a
thing,
casting
but-
choice come up, James Bond, Tom Hardy.
I
So-and-so,
just turned
Tom
into
Hardy.
Hollywood then.
Yeah.
It's like, James.
Who's a really hot guy who could do this? Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
What did you make of the action in the film? Because it's
Oh, mate, top notch. It is top notch. Like from the straight the get go, like at the opening.
I thought that was fantastic opening.
Where you could tell that he was old and his fists weren't working as well, and the claws wouldn't come out, and then he was just getting his ass kicked. But then he did that primal rage.
Yeah, his
where he just,
berserker.
slicing off faces and.
I thought it was such a great way of opening the film because it let us know this isn't an X-Men film like you've seen before. This isn't the Wolverine where it's going to cut away when he goes into someone. You're going to see blood. You're going to see Wolverine doing what Wolverine does best.
I think they set the movie off on the correct point because the first line of dialogue was Wolverine waking up going, fuck. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's warranted the 15 rating here in the UK, so we know we're in for a pretty good ride.
I
And
still think
like
it
you
should
said,
be an
no.
18 though.
Yeah, it was definitely borderline, but there was no sort of sexual violence, was there?
No, that's true. Or
I
drug
think that's
use,
probably
so,
where
yeah.
it came to the point there. We mentioned X-23 earlier. For anybody listening to this, I don't know why you wouldn't if you haven't seen the movie because we've just spoiled the shit out of it. But out of interest, if you don't know who X-23 is, basically she is Wolverine's daughter, but not because he had sex with somebody. She was made in a lab with Wolverine's DNA, so she's got sort of certain abilities. What did you reckon of her claws and the addition of the foot claw? What did you think of that?
Yeah, that's how it is in the comics, and I thought it. I thought she was perfect. I thought her action scenes were incredible. The scene where her and Wolverine fight together is one of my favorite scenes in any film ever. It's so satisfying to see them stand side by side. It's almost frustrating we're never going to get to see more of that because it worked so well. Like the little one that can jump about, and then the strong one fighting them off. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, they would have made a great duo, 100%. But yeah, I like the feet claws. I mean, she did some crazy ass moves at the beginning when those guys were coming in to attack her, flipping around and all crazy shit. But yeah, I think she's just a really good character overall. The fact that she didn't talk for the first half of the film.
Yeah, do you think it was very sort of 11 from Stranger Things?
Yeah,
that
definitely.
kind of, we're keeping a lot aside
Yeah.
so we can and eventually sort of get people to warm to this character. And there's this sort of inner rage and this primal beast where, the kids aren't really brought up in normal society. They don't know how to act. And this kid, she gets the cereal and just kind of gobbles it all down and doesn't know how to eat properly. And then whenever she sees the threat, it's just claws out, kill, kill, kill. Just this primal beast. Almost like what sort of X-24 was, just rage. But then she grows as a character throughout the thing, and then starts talking in crazy sort of Spanish language.
The thing I would like to know more is where they were actually going in the end. I've read and heard about stuff about Emma Frost has a thing in Canada or something that looks after mutants at that point. But
Eden.
yeah, Eden. But I don't really.
I guess it's just left open-ended because the weird thing with X-Men movies is we all know the timeline is fucked. Which timeline is it? Does it carry on from this point? We're not sure. So it could be any number of things, which is a good thing because, they could get up there and it could be Cyclops. You'd be like, well, why is it Cyclops? Wasn't he one of the 7 that got... it could be somebody else. It could be Beast. You don't know who it could be, or do you think they're just going to cap it off at this point and just be like, well, they get there and then they have an adventure, but we don't need to talk about it because we're going to go back to the 90s or we're going to completely reboot the universe,
I saw a video on YouTube, okay, where it basically described the whole timeline, and it said that when Logan goes back in time and everything's okay again, it basically restarts from there, but he is 182 in mental life, but in physicality, he's just he's still
his healing factor,
his healing factor, or whatever. He's a lot.
Right.
So he's more damaged in the head than the rest of them because he remembers what happened before. So he's seen his friends being killed again and again.
Right.
That's what I heard. I don't know if it's...
I think in answer to your thing about wanting to know more, I think it's good the way they did it because it's the idea of hope that that you need. The X-Men is always sort of about hope and about a better world, and I think that's quite fitting of it. And also, it is the end by that point of Wolverine's story, so I think it's almost right to stop it there, and then it's just the idea of her walking off, hopefully for a better life.
Yeah.
And he's helped her to get that, which I just thought they did it so well that he's always he's a reluctant hero in this because he's been so damaged. And there's that scene near the end where he's saying like, I can't care for you because everything I care about dies or gets destroyed, and then just to see him, the moment he realizes she's in trouble again, just forget all that, and his first thing to do is become an X-Man again.
And speaking of like death and the things that he's seen, do you think, because he remembers, obviously, do you think he remembers like almost both timelines?
Yeah.
So he remembers killing Jean Grey, and then obviously maybe later on Professor X has his incident where he kills all the other mutants. He sees her die again, so it's almost like you said, you know, people that are close to him, who he cares about, he's seen them die over and over again, so it's just taking a toll on him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like the way that you said about it's a Wolverine story. It's not about the kids really. It's about Wolverine dies, they put the cross on the thing, they turn it sideways, it's the X, it's a nice way, but
Very
without
nice way.
getting too depressing and be like, well, Professor X is dead and Wolverine's dead and Caliban's dead and all the people in that are dead. Do we just leave it there? They leave it on a little bit of hope, which I thought was
That is. Yeah,
good.
you're right.
Now, you guys talked about action earlier on today. I just want to get your thoughts on Professor X's kind of... He can stop time, and obviously with his mental faculties, he can't do it as well nowadays. Did you guys enjoy the scene at the casino where Logan's just going about his daily business and then it just happens and everybody's going kind of berserk and the Reavers are sort of closing in on Professor X? What are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was fantastic. It was so well done. And the thing that everyone keeps on talking to me about is the shot of the guy's eyes, that they can still move, whereas his body's stuck. And just to see the Wolverine coming at you like that and you can't do anything about it, I thought was just such a great moment, and so well done, and explained with, you know, so set up well with these seizures. And yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the exact same. Like, that bit with the eyes does get most people, because that's what I've heard from loads of people as well. And yeah, it's just him having seizures is a good way to show that he is properly damaged as well. Like, he's not the mutant you're not used to.
And I think there's something so sort of beautifully sad about the most intelligent like mind on the planet. It sort of made me think of Stephen Hawking, like in this body that's frail and also the mind starting to go as well.
Yeah.
You know, just the damage that he could do if he was left unchecked. And the toll that must take on Logan, of years of just having to look after this man who's killed his friends as well, but through no fault of his own.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like they set it up as the Reavers are looking for him, and they're like, he's potentially like a weapon of mass destruction. His mind is so incredibly powerful. At the best of times, when he could control it, it was still really powerful, but now he can't control it, so it's even more, it's, you know, unexpected, or something could happen and he doesn't even realise it. And talking about the scene in the casino, when X-Men Days of Future Past came out and they did the Quicksilver, you know, freeze time scene, and everybody raved about it and thought it was incredible, and they thought they couldn't top it, then they did the same sort of similar thing in X-Men Apocalypse, where they didn't do it quite as well.
No.
I thought this was in a similar vein, slightly different, but still as great and as awesome as the original Quicksilver scene. Like,
Yeah,
so with the eyes.
I even preferred it to the Quicksilver scene. I thought it was done even better. Like, it showed as well Wolverine's resilience, the fact that he could keep on going, the fact that he knew what he had to do to get to Professor X. I love the moments where it's sort of, you saw the Wolverine of old, like near the end, where he's just, by that point he is done, he's got nothing left to give, and he takes this serum which sort of, it gives you 5 minutes of Wolverine at his peak, and it is so good to see.
But the kid's like, don't take all of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? Fuck the rules.
Screw it. I'm nearly gone. I'm an old man.
It's like,
You know,
Here's
you
Sticky
guys are the
powers up.
future. The children are the future.
Yeah.
I just need to make sure guys can get across the border, and I'm just going to hack and slash and
nice
kill all
guy
these guys.
Logan out for the punch.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, he, like, the whole film in general, I mean, it has a completely different tone to every other, like, X-Men film we've seen. But I do like the fact that they homage, like, when they're talking about, oh yeah, do you remember like the Statue of Liberty, blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
You used to be a cage fighter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I love that stuff, but the timeline makes me not like it because it just makes me go. So that did happen,
Yeah.
and so Statue of Liberty happened, but what I thought he changed all that with Days of Future Past. So I don't know what's going on, but it's so frustrating because Easter eggs are so cool, but then you just go in the whole time like, what happened? What? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the theory is that Logan got sent back in time, didn't he? Or they warned him, or they took his mind or whatever in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Took him back to that time. So he's had all of that memory plus the memory that he did from that
how does
timeline.
Professor X know about that?
Fuck knows. But that stuff happened. Like, they're saying that in the two timelines that cross, the same things kind of correlate because that's how the world works. Like, so, for instance, like, everything in X-Men 3 and stuff like that happened, and just stuff like that. So,
But it didn't happen though, did it? Because in X-Men 3, Jean Grey got killed,
killed,
Cyclops
and
got
then,
killed,
yeah.
even Professor X got
So,
like obliterated. So
some
that
stuff
obviously
happens.
didn't happen.
Yeah.
So the theories I've heard is obviously he goes back in time to the 70s, he fixes it, and then he wakes up in like 20 whatever, and then Logan's set X amount of years after. It's not much, is it? So obviously in between that time of him saving the day and everybody's all right, and then the bad guy Richard E. Grant, I can't remember his name now, but he's basically like, mutants are shit and I want to control them, so he basically kills them and he sort of genetically modifies all the crops, and that kills out most of the mutants. And I can't remember where I'm going with this point now. So whatever sort of timeline, I guess inevitably
timelines are confusing, bro.
Inevitably, it's going to be like messed up for Wolverine because he can live through any number of timelines. And what I think is he went back. X-Men 1 in 2000 happened because that's the cage fighting, that's the Statue of Liberty, and then maybe after that it sort of veers off a little bit because I guess you could count X-Men 2, but you can't really count X-Men 3 because that's when everybody dies and weird shit happens. So
yeah,
that's where the timeline's fucked. We don't know what's happening. But then
I remember them saying in the video though that for about 16 years, Logan's just going around Canada as like a bushily bushwhacker guy, not bushwhacker, what they call him.
Lumberjack?
Lumberjack, that's it. Why did I say bushwhacker?
Don't know.
But yeah, he's just going around Canada for 16 years being a lumberjack.
Where have they got that information from?
Timelines and working it all out better than I can.
I think the only person that knows is either Hugh Jackman or director James Mangold, and I think they just couldn't really give a fuck.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they were just like, we just want to make a badass, kick-ass action film where we can let Wolverine, we can take the chains off him, he can murder, he can swear, he can't smoke, although there was a little nod to him grabbing some cigars.
I remember that.
He can do almost all of the things that we associate with Wolverine, but we don't have to worry about timelines. We can kind of think about them a little bit, and we can nod to them, but we're not gonna be so steadfast to them.
Did you guys know that the comic that they show was fake? It wasn't actually a real comic.
Yeah, they got an actual person who's drawn for Wolverine before they do it, haven't they?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool that they got actually made comics for that world, and the idea that people did actually read about these heroes.
So it grounds it a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Speaking of the comics, did you notice at one point when Wolverine's reading through the comic, there's an advert on the back, and I think it was like a poster for Mexican wrestling.
Oh, really?
So my theory is, because X-23, Laura, is only a small child, she's grown up in this facility, how does she know how to fight? My theory is she's been watching some Mexican wrestling and she's picked up.
Mimicked it.
Yeah, because she did a lot of like crazy sort of
It's
almost
true.
Black Widow-esque spinny round, slashing people, jumping and flipping and hurricanranas and all this kind of business. I think she got that from Mexican wrestling, and obviously she was brought up in Mexico in the facility. So that's my theory. It's unfounded, but that's what I think.
That's a good theory. It's solid. I like it.
Now, I just want to get a couple of perspectives on. We love this movie. All of us love the movie almost equally. There's almost no high regard. But there were a few moments that were a little, let's say, less than stellar. We talked about Caliban and his accent. I want to talk about the documentary scene. So there's this nurse who works in the sort of the facility that X-23 was born and raised in, and she's like, this is not right, I need to find the Wolverine because that's his genes being used, he needs to know that he's got a daughter. So she finds him, but then she's later on murdered, so he goes back there because she owes him money, and then he finds her phone, and then he starts watching this sort of documentary that she's put together, and it's like, she's a very talented woman, considering there's this base where it's sort of military driven and everything's so super secret, how she could go around with this phone and make this awesome sort of Michael Moore documentary.
It's so well made that it's frustrating. Like the editing of it, the shots she's getting, people would be going, "Why are you recording? Like you're not allowed. You're not allowed to do that." And it really takes you out of the film. Even the second time watching it, I found it comical just how well done it was. It would have been so much better if it was her just talking to the camera and then we just saw what it was like and we just believe her. Because at this point, there's X-23 who's got claws. Obviously, Wolverine's not going to be still going, this is bullshit, this isn't real. Like, at this point, he'd just be like, okay, I'm on board.
She could have took like sneaky photos instead of videos.
Yeah, well, like you're saying, like they could have been watching the video, just her talking. She's in a back room somewhere. She's panicked. She knows that if she blows this whole thing open, that she's going to be targeted. And I like that respect of it. But then they put in footage over the top, which made you believe it was part of what they were watching. And it was all sort of like shaky phone footage. It was sort of a little bit blurry and pixelated. It's like, I want to just separate the two. Like, this is what she's describing, so we get to see what's going on, whereas Wolverine doesn't. Like you said, he has to make it up in his own mind. Yeah, that was a really, really odd moment.
Did she capture that kid jumping off a building as well? Was that?
Yeah. How weird is that moment?
That was shot really well.
Yeah. Just the scientists probably turn around and she's there with a phone going, "What the fuck are you doing? You just recorded a kid jumping off a building."
What are your thoughts on the X-Kids? I wasn't really overly joyed by them. I liked the main kid, was his name like Richter or something, where he could like control the ground and make like earthquakes and stuff. But I didn't quite get all the other kids. There was one that could sort of make like plants happen or something, and one had like ice breath. Or whatever.
I wish that they took homage like from the old X-Men, like maybe like for instance, a guy could have ice powers because of Bobby, or like
I think that's what they were doing. There was one that had the power of storm. There was one that had the ice breath because they tore that guy's arm off, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was...
I wish they used their powers as well when they were running away.
Yeah, that was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Because they're just running...
Maybe the way I explained that in my head was because they're children, they're panicking.
They're panicking, yeah.
Other than people that would think, oh, I'm going to do this and that.
But it was creepy when they were all around that guy, yeah. And they were just like looking down on him.
It was a cool scene.
Yeah, apart from those minor kind of foibles with Caliban, with the kids, and with the documentary, I thought it was a pretty flawless movie.
It was a good 9 out of 10, dude.
It had great action, great story. It looked great. Had a weird sort of Western feel almost to it. Had this sort of post-apocalyptic feel, even though it wasn't post-apocalyptic. It had motivation. It had great characters.
Shot really well. Decent sounds when it needs to be. Like it was just all pretty much perfect, dude.
And then finish it off at the credits with the Johnny Cash song.
Yeah,
I can't ask,
you can't go wrong.
I can't ask more than that.
And I like that they didn't do an end credit scene in a weird way. I felt like it was sort of... It didn't need an end credit scene like, oh, look at next time. It was, this is the end of him. Yeah. I thought that was sort of respectful in a way.
I totally agree.
Definitely.
Any final thoughts for you guys?
The car was cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the car, although it's crazy bulletproof and
the limo.
Yeah, and it can just dodge.
Pretty good limo, right?
It is an insane limo. I don't know where he picked that up from.
Pretty good rims, right?
The insurance must cost a lot. That bad boy. I wonder if Wolverine pays insurance.
He had a job, didn't he?
Road
Probably
tax
gets his part of the thing. That's why he was so pissed off the guys at the beginning who tried to jack his hubs, and he was just like, "Come on,
that's true.
I got a job here."
Yeah.
Shut up, old man.
But yeah, that's basically it. The car's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to end the Wolverine story.
And the banter as well between, obviously,
Wheels.
Yeah, Wheels and Wolverine. It was just amazing. Like when he had that pill and he was like, "I've swallowed it." And it's like, like that kind of scene, like just joking around. And yeah, overall, dude, I'm putting my thumb up. I'm putting my finger with my thumb, making a circle.
It's okay.
Could you said thumbs up?
Could have done, but
Curtis's review features. Yeah.
yeah.
Is it a good movie? Don't know. What's he doing with his hand? He's describing it very, very weirdly. He's putting a finger in that hole. There. Anyway, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You can hit us up on Twitter. It's at DoYouLikeFilms, and we're also on Facebook. Search for us there, Do You Like Films, and we've also got an email address, which is doyoulikeFilms@gmail.com.
And also very soon we'll be up on iTunes as well.
Yes, stay tuned for that. And I just want to say, on behalf of Curtis, Michael, and me, Shaun, thank you very much for listening. See you next time.